This is Johnstown's original Sunday morning magazine for radio, segment 92. We'll find out what networking means this morning, but first, on the lighter side of life, what about those Cabbage Patch dolls? Are they good for your health? We'll find out in a moment. Good morning and welcome. This is segment 92. This morning we're with Mad Mike Marine via telephone. He's the author of 101 Ways to Get Rid of a Lettuce Head Doll. It is a smash hit of a book. Now, Lettuce Head Doll implies, I guess, the Cabbage Patch dolls, or the look-alike of those dolls. Is that correct, Mike?
Well, Sue, I am sick of not only Cabbage Patch, but Pumpkin Kids and all other vegetable-based dolls. I think they are a waste of money and downright ugly.
Now, Mike, what prompted you to write this book, besides your overt hatred for these dolls?
Well, Sue, I am sick and tired of hearing about these dolls and their over 1,000 different accessories. I think it's high time the American public fight back and not take this thing lying down.
Now, on the book itself, it says, Goodbye, Dolly, and that's Judith Crisp. Is that a takeoff on the critic?
That is a little bit of a pun there.
Now, the book contains 101 ways. Do you have can we go into any of those 101 ways?
Yes, some of my favorite ways is one, to tell your child the doll's real mother has been found and wants the doll back. You can tell your child that the doll is a plant and will, of course, grow best by planting it 6 feet under. And another one of my favorite methods is to buy your doll 15 helium balloons for its birthday.
Now, what would you do with the 15 helium balloons?
Well, you would just attach that to the doll and open your window and, as Judith Crisp would say, goodbye, Dolly.
Now, the book itself, you're not an author by trade, are you?
Well, this is my first published work. I am working on a sequel entitled The Care and Feeding of Your Michael Jackson Glove. But this is my first attempt at the big-time publishing world.
Okay, fads. Can we talk about fads? Because that's what it is. Have you always been against fads or what is supposedly hip or cool?
Well, I really think that people ought to think before they buy something, instead of just going out and obtaining something because their neighbor has it, or it's in, or they just know that everyone else in the block has one and they want to be the first maybe to have the newest model. I say that the American public has been duped into buying a doll that is overpriced and also happens to be ugly.
But they are unique. At least that's what they're billed to be. No one doll is alike.
Well, that's what they say. They say each doll is unique, and the way they say the doll is unique is they say that the dimple on each doll is in a different location. Now, if I want a doll that has a dimple on it, I will buy a Kirk Douglas doll or a John Travolta doll. But I think vegetables deserve more respect.
Do you eat vegetables on a regular basis?
I am not a vegetarian, but I do think that vegetables are good for you. And I think these dolls are dangerous for our children. I think they are turning the moral fiber of our youth into worthless vegetable fiber. Little girls all over America have becoming emotionally attached to their dolls. And they start to believe that these dolls are real and should be treated like a member of the family. They start spending more and more time with the doll and less time with other children. The result is a disease called acute lettuce habituation, which is an insidious disease where the child is unable to function as a normal human being. And there's only one known cure. Get rid of the doll.
No, but isn't that normal that a younger person, a child, or even a grown adult does have a plaything, imaginary friend, Isn't that somewhat normal?
Well, I'm telling you, this imaginary friend may be cute, but why doesn't the kid play with real kids their own age? And the reason is, like the vegetable-based doll they bought, the child's brain vegetates. Now, this power that's held by vegetables has long been understood by native Indian tribes, but is only beginning to be understood by modern man.
No, now, your children, you are married.
Yes.
Do your children have toys?
Yes, they do.
Do they have a lettuce head doll?
They do not have a lettuce head doll. In fact, one of the things that spurred me on to write this book is the fact that a year ago I went and bought one of these popular fad dolls. I came home, I showed it to my wife. Now, at that time, we were very low on cash. And when I told her what I had paid for this doll, she nearly fainted. The rest of the night, we stood up and we stayed up late, and we started thinking whether it was worth it, the doll. In fact, we looked at the other dolls that my little baby girl, who was only 1 month at the time, had, and we decided that Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy and other dolls that they had were just fine, and that this ugly fad doll was only purchased because it was a fad, and she told me the next day to take the doll back.
And that industry makes much money, the doll industry in itself. And we'll even go back to the Barbie doll. I know I grew up with one, and I'm sure you, if you had sisters, they grew up with one. And just the clothing and the accessories. And now, as you had pointed out, that it is a billion-dollar industry with the lettuce head doll.
Well, they're not satisfied with not only selling us these dolls, but they have to sell us 1,000 accessories, and now there are camps for these dolls. Even today in the paper I read where an orthodontist is fitting braces for these dolls. I want to know, where is it going to stop? We are wasting our money on these plastic dolls, which are just a sign of our plastic society, where everyone reads the same paper, wears the same fashions, and buys the same ugly fad doll.
Now, Mad Mike, you are mad, and I can tell that. Well, if you could have it your way, what would you do?
I say fight back, and I am starting a nationwide campaign, a sterilization crusade of nationwide clinics for spaying and neutering of your doll to prevent unnecessary breeding.
And that is based in, you're out of Washington, D.C., aren't you?
That's correct. I say any doll that makes Don Rickles look attractive should not be allowed to breed.
That's very good. Now, you do have a song, and we're going to be playing that at the end of this interview. How did that come about?
Well, that song, I think, really came about, it was an inspiration to me, actually. I was thinking about what would be a way to get across to a lot of people the message of lettuce head mania. And one of the difficulties, of course, a lot of people were having was on finding these dolls, and they're still very difficult to get. So I decided to write a little tune about the frustrations that we are put, or at least parents have gone through, in order to obtain a doll. And I say this is a contrived shortage. And I say it's very similar to the gasoline shortage we had a few years ago, where everybody was lined up for miles to get some gasoline, and you look around now, and you know, gas prices are really low. What's the difference? The only difference is that they restrict the supply, which not only drives the price up, where people are now paying $50 to $100 for a doll, but they also make you wait 6 months on top of that. So I'm trying to say is one of the frustrations all people who have purchased these things have gone through is to find the damn things. And in the song, it depicts a story of a father who is frustrated going around trying to find a doll. And in the end, he finds an alternative gift that is just as good, if not better, than these dolls, and that is the book, 101 Ways to Get Rid of a Lettuce Head Doll.
Now, when you purchase a lettuce head doll, you receive a birth certificate. In your book, you have the official lettuce head death certificate. And yes, it is suitable for framing. Now, on the certificate itself, it talks about the methods of death. How could a doll, I know that they live in the child's heart and the child's mind. How could a lettuce head doll die?
Well, I say being a doll, they're a lot more difficult to dispose of than a typical fad item, and there is an emotional attachment that goes with a doll. So in order to sever the emotional attachment, I feel it's very important to have a document. The child believes that this doll is real, so we want to say that to the child who's living in this fantasy world that, yes, your doll was real, but your doll has come across some hard times here, and here is a document that will show you that your doll is no longer around, and hopefully your child will snap out of the stupor that the child is in.
Mm-hmm. Now, children, after they have pronounced their doll dead, what's next?
Well, I have started a lettuce head support group for parents of kids who are suffering these symptoms of acute lettuce head habituation. And this group is called Lettuce Head, which is an acronym, and it stands for Let's Eliminate Those Tacky, Ugly, Commercially Exploited, High-Priced, Exceedingly Awful Dolls. I say that these people should group together and form support groups to help other parents who are finding that their kids are suffering these symptoms. And hopefully we will be able to get a warning to be put on each doll that's manufactured that reads, quote, use of this doll may be hazardous to your child's mental health. For a high-fiber diet, it is recommended you eat the doll.
Very good. Now, your publisher. Can we talk about how it came about to be published? You're with Leisure Books, and they're based out of New York City, is that correct? How did that come about?
Well, what happened was I originally published an edition myself here in Washington, D.C. that I distributed locally, and the response to that was so great that some people caught some publicity from that initial publication, and a man down in Florida gave me some names of people we thought might be interested in publishing this book. He thought it was a hilarious idea, and via this particular gentleman, I got the names of people in New York, and it was only a matter of time before we found somebody who had as sick a sense of humor as I do.
Yes, your humor is somewhat demented.
Well, actually, we think this book really appeals to a lot of people who purchased the book called Tasteless Jokes.
Mm-hmm.
There are some tasteless methods that can probably not really be described over the airwaves. They have to really be read to be appreciated.
And now the distribution of the book. It can be purchased at...
Well, I said, B. Dalton is one of the major chains that are carrying the book, and it is distributed nationwide. If you can't find a copy, you can contact Cable News Company out of New York, which is the national distributor. But all B. Dalton stores do have copies of the book.
There's a B. Dalton, I believe, in Altoona, in the Logan Valley Mall, and over in Greensburg, and I can't remember, it's either Westmoreland or Greengate Mall. And that's our nearest B. Dalton bookstore. Now, how's it going, the sales of the book?
The sales are going pretty well. We are not we really do not have the kind of publicity campaign that, say, a Warner Books or a Ballantine would have. And a lot of people still out there have not heard about the book. But we're finding that in the big cities that there is really a lot of people who found out that this is the perfect gift for that person who has everything, including a vegetable-based doll.
Now, the investment is minimal compared to the actual cost of a lettuce head doll. Your book price is $4.95.
Yes, and that includes the official lettuce head doll death certificate. And what I say is that for $4.95, you're guaranteed to get your laughs worth. In fact, I think you'll get more laughs than a Burt Reynolds movie, which costs a minimum of $5.
Very good. Now, your next project.
I said one thing, that I was working on a sequel called The Care and Feeding of Your Michael Jackson Glove.
Now, what is that all about?
That is also another satire that is taking apart another popular fad, which was Michael Jackson, who appears to be fading in popularity somewhat. Another book I'm also have already written and may be coming out is a book called Future Schlock, which is my predictions of what's going to happen in the year 2000.
And what do you think might happen if we can have just a taste of that?
Well, some of the things that are in my book Future Schlock is that some of my, I think, the more funny predictions that I have is that the number one selling car will be the Ford Pinto. I predict in the year 2000 that Brooke Shields will divorce Michael Jackson. Also predict that Vaseline will become a prescription medication.
How long does it take you to think of these things?
Well, some of these things don't really take that long. It's just a matter of sitting down at night and being as drugged as possible, and a lot of these things just start popping into your mind.
Now, the thought, have you always thought so negatively? I guess that's the term I want to use. Has it always been, not negatively, sarcastically?
I think I've always been a satirist. I always like to, I think, see the humor in life. A lot of people take things so seriously and always have this serious look on their face. And I really think that humor has, in fact, been proven lately to be very good for you. So, like Norman Cousins showed that laughing at Marx Brothers movies helped in his, cancer therapy. So I think it's really fun to get something that will make you laugh and relieve the stress. So even though I can write seriously, and I do have do a serious job during the day, I like to spend my time doing something that's fun. In fact, another thing that I've done is written another song that another satirical song that I think has a lot of possibility for this year, which I thought you might want to share with your listeners. And the song is called The Year of the Yuppie.
And yuppie meaning?
Young urban professional.
And
you know those yuppies that everybody's talking about these days?
Yes, and they used to be yippies.
They used to be the yippies, but now the...
Or the hippies.
I think, actually, I'm a little disgusted with yuppies. I think, at least according to what the Newsweek article told about them, they really are just out for themselves and out to make money. And I think that they're an easy subject. So I've written a song that I think is pretty funny, and looking now for a record company that might want to go ahead and come out with some songs by Mad Mike.
Now, is that similar to Weird Al? I'm sure you've heard of Weird Al.
Yeah, in fact, I think that's really where I sort of got the idea of maybe making this into a second career, is that I figure if this guy Weird Al can take a well-known song and change the lyrics and do, I say a fair, moderate job at it, I think that someone with my years of humor experience can go out and maybe do the same thing. So I'm giving it a shot. So
you daylight in a professional job and moonlight as a writer and a comedian. Do you do club acts?
Well, some people have asked me, they said you should go on Star Search and do this, but, stand-up comedy is not an easy thing to do. And I'm the type of person who likes to edit and re-edit until I finally come up with something that I'm happy with. So I don't really think that at this time that I could do a club act, but I do think I can continue maybe to come out with some funny humor pieces and maybe even some good serious pieces.
Now, the name of the book is 101 Ways to Get Rid of a Lettuce Head Doll. And we are talking to the author, Mad Mike Marine. And the book is available at B. Dalton bookstores, and that's nationally. And speaking of nationally, you were recently on Entertainment Tonight. How did that come about? Did you know that was going to happen?
That's funny, Sue. I didn't even know that they were going to put that on that show. I have been in contact with one of the affiliate stations here in town who were looking at maybe doing something, but they never talked to me. I did have some national attention in the USA Today with a slight article and an article in the Washington Post, but it really came to me as a shock. I talked to you today, and some other radio announcers told me that they saw it too, so hopefully that national exposure will produce more people getting on the anti-vegetable-based doll bandwagon.
Very good. Now, the name of the song...
It's called the Lettuce Head Doll Song, which is being played in about 100 stations right now across the country.
And we're going to play it right now.
I asked my little girl as Christmas Day came near, what could I get for her, my precious sweetie dear? She looked at me with sad blue eyes and said, Daddy, with a tear. I want a doll that's really making the scene. I want a doll whose hair is a shade of green.
I want a doll to take to school with me.
I want a doll that's badass.
Let's get doll, let us a doll.
Give me that doll.
Let us a doll.
So I went to every store in the local town. I told them that I needed a doll that wears a crown. I'll gladly pay you $50, $100 if I must to get a
Doll, let us a doll. I want a doll, let us a doll.
want a doll that's really making the scene. I want a doll whose hair is a shade of green.
I want a doll to take to school with me.
I want a doll that's badass.
Let's get doll, let us a doll.
Give me that doll.
Let us a doll.
The manager sadly told me of a 3-month wait just to buy a green-haired doll that everyone can hate. So would I take a number or try another state to buy a
Doll, let us a doll. I want a doll, let us a doll.
I want a doll that's really making the scene. I want a doll whose hair is a shade of green.
I want a doll to take to school with me.
I want a doll that's badass.
Let's get doll, let us a doll.
Give me that doll.
Let us a doll.
I told my lovely daughter that I searched across this land, but I couldn't find this doll that is in such demand. So I bought another present to get me off the hook. 101 ways to get rid of the doll. A funny lettuce head book about us. I want a doll that's really making the scene. I want a doll whose hair is a shade of green.
I want a doll to take to school with me.
I want a doll that's badass.
Let's get let us a doll.
Let us a doll.
Let us a doll.
This is Mad Mike Marine, the author of 101 Ways to Get Rid of a Lettuce Head Doll. Be sure to pick it up at your local B. Dalton bookstores.